this is Katie from Katie Fisher Art. Thanks for checking out my channel. We'll be going over how I digitize my watercolor illustrations using Krita. Krita is a free program that I use as an alternative to Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. I'll go ahead and leave a link to their site in the description below. With that said, let's get started. This is my scanned in illustration that I scanned in at 600 dpi, that's dots per inch. We're going to open this image up in Krita so we can remove the background and be left with just the flowers. Alright, now that we have Krita open, we're going to start a new file. I already have this set to how I normally use it. I'm just going to go ahead and hit create. And then let's go ahead and upload our image to our canvas. So we're going to go to layer, import, export, and then import layer. Go ahead and select the image you want. Once we do that, let's go ahead and resize it so it fits into the canvas we have selected. So go ahead and hit the transform tool, which will bring up the image. And we're going to go ahead and resize it. So grab it from the corner and start bringing it up. So you can see it's kind of being deformed. So if you hit shift, hold shift while you're resizing it, it'll keep the proportions correct. So now that we have it how we want it, we're going to go ahead and move it to the center. And now we're going to hit the rectangular selection tool to kind of crop out the areas we don't want. So I'm just going to go ahead and select the border of this illustration. And I'm holding down shift so that it's selecting all of this at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and hit delete on my keyboard and remove that background. And if I hit the little eye icon on this background layer, it'll remove that white background so that I can see that I've cleared out the area here. Go ahead and hit right click to deselect. So what I'm going to do here is change the filter or apply a filter to the illustration. So I go to filter, adjust, then color adjustment curves. We're going to change the contrast on the image just so that we can select it a little easier. So I like to just bring it straight down, kind of gets brighter, and then I hit OK. I'll do that again, but with a different selection. So I do filter, then I go down to colors, and then color to alpha. I'm going to go ahead and remove some of the black so that it's not so muddy. That, hit OK. And then what we're going to do is hit the selection 1 tool, and then over here in the tool options section, if you don't have this on your hotbar, then you hit the right mouse button and you can select tool options. I have it checked, which means it's up and open over here. So under action, you've got these options. So I hit this far right option, symmetric difference. And I usually kind of have it up higher. I select the background, and you can kind of see what it's selecting. So it's not going to take out this area that's not selected, but it's kind of cutting into the illustration. So with the feathering radius, we're going to go ahead and bring that down a little bit. We'll try for 2. Go ahead and deselect, and then try that again. So it looks like it's not cutting into the image as much. Let's go for 1 and see if that does any better. Yeah, that's a little better. So there's obviously some areas that aren't selected, like the lighter washes here. So we're going to go ahead and hit the second to last action, which is the subtract action. And usually with the feathering radius, I kind of bring that up a little higher, and I'll select a lighter wash. Let's try this area and see what it gets for us. So let's see, it's at 17 pixels. I'm going to try a little higher. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that selection. And I'm going to try that again and see what it picks up. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and settle for that. And then if you hit delete on your keyboard a couple times to clearly remove that background, and then deselect. And then you want to go to the middle action tool, which is add, and you want to make sure the feathering radius is at 0. So you want to zoom in to the areas where you can still see the watercolor paper, and then hit select. and kind of just look for all the areas. You don't have to hold shift when you're selecting, it's already doubling up on the selection. So you just keep selecting the areas you don't want the paper to come through. So it looks like that's about all the pieces I want for this area to be removed. So I'm going to go ahead and hit delete on my keyboard a couple times. I'm going to move on to the next flower. Hit deselect and start over. So I'm going to select these areas that I don't want the paper coming through. And sometimes it over selects, so you just have to deselect and try again in a different area. So far it's not giving me that trouble. So keep selecting. So like that, instead of deselecting, hit Control Z to remove that. Alright, that looks good to me. I'm actually going to remove this part as well. Just kidding. Let's try that again. Looks like it won't let me select it without taking a lot out. So I'm going to leave that as it is and just remove these areas that are selected. I'm going to hit delete a couple times and then right click deselect. So now I've got my illustration here with no background, it's just the flowers. So now I can do what I want with them and apply them to other pieces that I'm working on. A little something I like to do is add a clipping group so I can change the hint of the color a little bit. So I'll show you how to do that really quick. So right click on your layer, go down to group and then quick clipping group. And then with the masking layer, you want to change the properties. The blending mode here has a drop down menu, select that and click on overlay, then hit OK. And then you grab your paintbrush tool. It doesn't matter which tool you use. I typically like to paint with this one here, the basic 5 size. And then I like to bring the size up of the paintbrush pretty big so that I can just quickly go over it. So if you right click with your mouse, you can change the color that you have selected. So I'm going to kind of go for more of an orangey or red color. And then I'm just going to brush over my flower. You can kind of see that it's changed the color of it, the tone. And if you've noticed over here on the masking layer, it's got this A here, this alpha symbol slash through. That means it's coloring within the lines or the image itself. If I unselect it, you'll see what it does. So you see that I've colored all around here. But with having that selected, it only stays within the image. So if I wanted to just mess around and keep trying different colors, let's try an orange, just to kind of see what kind of variations of flowers you can kind of get. And then if you wanted to mess around with just the inside here and kind of add some extra emphasis on the center of it, this is where I kind of get my airbrush tool and kind of soften the area here and kind of play around with it. It's pretty fun. You can kind of try out different styles. And then it still looks like it's a watercolor piece, because it is. You just removed the background. It still keeps the texture. And that's how you do it. Thanks for watching.